Welcome everyone to the Equestrian's Inner Life podcast. I'm your host, Pernille. Today I have the pleasure of introducing to you an equestrian, a horseman of exceptional caliber. Someone who believes that horsemanship and self-development go hand in hand. The core philosophy is simple, yet profound. The better we know and understand ourselves, the better we can connect and understand our horses. Will Rogers.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Will is originally from New South Wales, Australia, but moved overseas at a young age with a deep desire to explore, learn and refine his craft. He has lived and trained in several different countries and is now based in Germany, where he teaches, trains and demonstrates his unique approach to working with horses, setting a powerful example of what becomes possible when we connect with our horses on the deepest level. Through his beautiful videos from the Swiss Alps as a breathtaking backdrop to the dressage arena, Will inspires us to believe that our dreams can become reality. From early on, Will has been fascinated by horses and driven by a desire to understand their behaviour and communication. What has he found to be true? What has the horse shown him again and again, so consistently that it has become embodied and part of his why for being with horses? In today's conversation, we explore Will's approach, how he builds relationships, trust, clarity with his horses, and what steps and principle he returns to daily. We'll unpack the core concepts that underpin true connection and what we as equestrians need to pay attention to within ourselves to create the results we seek with our horses. So, welcome,
Wow.
Will.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I want to compliment you on such a beautiful introduction, because that sums up what I'm about. And I was interested to hear, because I was like, oh, you're always curious what people will come up with, and that really hits it on the head. So thank you for doing your research.
Thank you. Okay, well, to sort of start the conversation off, tell us what's inspiring you most at the moment? What's giving you energy in your life, in your riding, and in life in general?
Good question. Well, I feel that, like, for me, probably what fires me up the most is I've sort of come on a long journey to the realization that the inner journey, what's going on inside of me and how that reflects through me and my body and my intentions and actions is felt directly by the horse. And so what sort of excites me these days is trying to refine that and understand that on a day-to-day basis, through simple practices with the horse or off the horse, that I can become more me, and that the horse can be more them, while we try and work towards higher levels of performance or connection or whatever it is that we're sort of focusing on. And I sort of find that I've tried to, for a long time I was obsessed with horse training and learning all the process and understanding the horses and everything. And as I've gone further, the horses have started to show me more. It's like, okay, this is a practice of how we are being together in terms of, like, if I'm stressed, and I have quite sensitive horses, and immediately my nervous system and my sensitivity and stress is going to affect my horse, which is going to create tension in my horse more than needs to be. And so then that's sort of a reflection of me to bring my awareness back to myself and come back to a more calm, regulated state, find softness in my body, and then go back into the work with the horse. Now, of course, I'm far from perfect. I, go up and down all the time. But this is something that has become more of a obsession, because it's sort of, you can get tired of doing the same routines, but when you're working with yourself and the horse on that deeper level as well, it's sort of much more a fulfilling daily practice kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about your daily practices that you do yourself to get into that calmer state when you're working with your horses.
Well, I think like in a simple way, I like to try and do some exercises in the morning, whether it's some sort of strength training, or I do this fascia work where a good friend of mine, a lady I've worked with for many years, she has these soft fascia balls, and they help open up the fascia in the body to create more softness in your overall body. And this is something that it's kind of bringing you back to yourself as well at the same time. So it's something that sort of counterbalances the strength training. You need the strength and the flexibility and everything, but the softness, I think, can quite often come a bit from the fascia work. And then I do meditation as well. That's a big one, different sort of variations of that. And sometimes I'm really dialed in and consistent, and then other times life's getting in the way and I'm sliding off a little, and then it's sort of a bit trying to come back to it, you know?
Yeah. Well, what made you actually want to seek this deeper, more deeper understanding than simply just riding from, for what's in front of you?
For sure. I think suffering and pain and a lot of it. So I think for me, and I'm not, I'm not meaning that my life's been terrible by any means, but it's more that I've sort of come up the hard way in that respects of started off in Australia as a cowboy and just sort of probably having low self-worth without realizing that was a big factor, and sort of not thinking I was good enough as a default subconscious kind of thought, and then being in an environment where, it's a tough game, in the beginning, when you're like, I was into the cutting horse industry, and I was doing that in the beginning in camp drafting and, all that sort of stuff. It's a tough life. You're working for free, and you're, basically working like a slave 7 days a week and not taking care of yourself and not having much awareness on what's possible in your life, And so I had that as a bit of a base. I mean, I've got great parents. They've done an amazing job, and I was very loved and all that sort of stuff. And they taught me a lot of things about hard work and all that sort of thing. But I think growing up, I just collected a set of negative internal beliefs and limiting beliefs that I was trying to transcend. I was always trying to be exceptional. I didn't feel like I was, and therefore I wanted to be exceptional at what I was doing. So I sort of was in this pursuit all the time of chasing big mountaintops, and at the same time, internally, I had the inner conflict of the opposite feeling. So what I realized earlier on in my career, I used excessive work and just being obsessed with my craft without realizing at the time, to numb myself from what I was actually feeling. And combine that with smoking cigarettes and not drinking and not living probably the healthiest lifestyle along that path at that time. It was just, looking back at it, was all sort of numbing activities to kind of calm the inner sort of thing. And so Yeah. So I think that's kind of what was driving the bus. And then once at a certain point, I started to get further on my journey, and I started to realize that when I sort of got more deeper into the liberty work, when I started doing it with my team of horses, there was a defining moment where I was working, I had 10 horses at liberty, and they're all reflecting back this frustration, this negativity, a little bit back to me. And I realized what I was looking for was more of a better feeling with the horses, that the horses felt better with me, and it was a nice, in the flow, that there was more positivity, and I felt that there was not that. And I realized that that reflected back my own internal state. And then I realized that it couldn't be more obvious if 10 mirrors are amplifying back the same message. It's pretty undeniable, isn't it? So that's where it sort of started to become a slow process of understanding what's going on inside of me and getting more pure. And I think I had a lot of mental traffic going on in my mind all the time, a lot of internal judgments and so on, and which was making it impossible for me to feel a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so that started to become, and I had a very good friend of mine and student, Yvette Blockesh, who is someone who is probably more connected with her feeling working with horses than anyone I'd met at that time. And I started to notice that I could show her something, teach her something, and she would come back and be doing it effortlessly in such a short period of time. And I was like, how is this possible? She doesn't have the experience. She hasn't practiced like I have. She doesn't know. How is this possible? And I started to ask her questions, and that started to lead me to realizing that she was not thinking. She was just feeling. She had no disturbance through obsessive thoughts or things rolling around in her head that were disabling her feel. So she was able to feel with everything that's going on and react without thought. So there was no delay, no blockages, no friction. And that amplified my pursuit for, okay, I got to figure out how to reconnect with myself and get clear and find my way back to my feeling, which I didn't realize I'd basically been blocked with for many, many, many years.
Yes. So when did you start to really notice that voice in your head?
I think I'd started to notice that when it gets really bad, you sort of can't function almost, It's a little bit like someone, imagine if your trainer was saying the worst possible things imaginable to you while you're trying to work. That's what my mind was doing. And I think when I think about it, what really probably was going on is I had such big goals for myself, and they were so important to me, but my mind, obviously trying to protect me, was going, I don't want to do these big goals. This is scary like hell. Let's stay safe and do nothing. Yeah. And I just kept, on some deeper level, I just kept pushing. And I think the mind just got louder and louder and louder. And I don't know, I think on a sort of spiritual level, looking back, this is how it was always meant to go,
Yes. Yeah, the horses, they helped you. They help you because 100%. They really show the mirror, don't they?
100%.
Yeah. Now, so then when you're overseas and you do your clinics and help other people, what are you finding are some of the biggest challenges other riders have with horses? What do you see?
I think it's the same sort of thing, but just different variations, if you have any inner, like let's just say a common one is say with empathetic people, typically they tend to have challenge with boundaries. So creating boundaries with other people, with horses and everything, is something that can be very uncomfortable. And so a lot of people tend to avoid that. Now, when you're very sweet and open and kind and don't have any boundaries, you can very easily be controlled and manipulated by other people. You can be doing things that you don't want to do, but going along with it because you've let people cross your boundaries. And when it comes to horses, when you don't have, say, that, if you don't define clear boundaries from inside and then putting it into the physical world, the horse feels that immediately, and the horse will cross those boundaries to see if they're there, not to be disrespectful, but just to feel, are there any boundaries? Because boundaries keep horses and people feeling safe. They know where the lines are. You know, if someone's got very clear boundaries, it doesn't mean that they're a mean, hard person. It just means that there's a line and you know where the line is, and within the line we can have a harmonious relationship. But if you cross the line, you know, it's going to be uncomfortable, you know, and I think that's one big example. I think the other big example is, like in my case, when people doubt themselves and they don't believe in themselves, or they don't feel that they're worthy, they are automatically transmitting that to the horse unconsciously all the time. And so the horse is then feeling that they're not going to feel secure because that person doesn't even believe in themselves, kind of thing. And so that sort of reflects. And the other thing is just being identified with your head constantly. So you're working with the horse, but you're not feeling the horse. You're thinking about the horse, judging the horse, or kind of having a mental picture of, or like, I want this to happen, but not feeling what is actually happening. And I've had suffered from that a lot along the way. And so I think those things are all sort of reflections of unresolved things that are sort of subconsciously controlling us. And so until we sort of maybe have enough pain or discomfort or awareness to come to realize, wow, this thing's messing me up. I need to get some clear boundaries in my life, or I need to believe in myself, because if I don't believe in myself, who will? You know, like I can't tell someone else to believe in me if I don't even believe in my own, you know, and that's a hard one. That can be you know, it takes time to work on these things, you know?
Yeah. And then again, with all that, then the connection you establish with your horse, that becomes a big challenge then.
For sure.
Isn't that? Yeah.
For sure. So like maybe I can give you a bit of an example of like my current level. It's always being upgraded as I learn more, but my current level of understanding about connection, and I sort of feel like a lot of things, like when I used sort of the Will Rogers approach as a sort of line, I just realized like it's an approach, and it needs to be based on kind of what you've learnt through life, through the horses and so on. But it's almost like training is not really invented per se. It's more discovered kind of thing. Like I feel like as I go further, the horses show me sort of like the principles of the universe. You kind of start to realize like, okay, these are the things that are involved with working with this horse. And it's my job to understand. And it's taken me a long time to learn this, but connection is the base. And when I talk about connection, I'm talking about the connection that starts off on a mind level. So let's just say the horses in nature are interconnected in a herd for safety. So when a predator or a threat comes, they sense, the horses on the outside of the herd, or the first horses to become aware of threats, they sense the danger, and that is a felt energetic transmission that comes from that horse to the others, and it ripples through the herd. And
Yes.
the herd are interconnected like that all the time. That's their safety system. So connection really is the absolute base for horses. And then what we do is we fail as humans to recognize that a little bit. And so when we take, let's just say an example of the young horse, we take the young horse away from the herd for the first time. What do?
Yeah, they don't feel safe.
They don't feel safe, and then they start screaming out and so on. So immediately we've taken their safety away, and their safety was not the protection of the herd per se physically, but more the connection of the herd letting them know, okay, it's not safe.
Okay.
Yes. We have to go, and that's their way of surviving. Now, the human, when we have the connection with the horse, we don't want them to run away when they get scared.
No.
That's not what we're looking for. We don't want in the middle of a test that the horse runs out of the arena. So we have to find a way to work with nature, but not let surviving be the main thing.
Yes.
We need sort of safety through connection to be the main thing. And so what I've come to realize is that when you have a horse, when you teach a horse to be connected together with you, so let's just say my mind and my awareness is with the horse, and I teach the horse mentally with their awareness and attention to keep redirecting it towards me until they start to soften and feel safe together with you, where their mind is not being drawn to the outside all the time and trying to look for threats, but they start to relax into being together with you. This is the first part of connection. So then when the horse is with you and you're calm and relaxed within your energy, then the horse starts to find safety, the feeling of safety together with the person. And once you start with that, then you've got the crown jewel starting point, in my opinion, of like working with horses. And once you build that up and then you build that into movement, so like when I'm walking with the horse or whatever, I have particular positions that I want the horse to be in, which I call like sweet spots. And they are the places that I want the horse to be connected to in relation to me, and it's their responsibility. So not that let's just say a horse can be at liberty with you and doing it because they're trained to do it.
Yes.
And they can also be at liberty or on a rope or with a bridle or saddle, whatever, and be connected with you. And with that connection, if you think about like the fundamental need that we all desire is safety first, isn't it? And so once you can achieve that safety first with the horse, then you can build from a strong base. And that's taken me, 20 years to learn that. And it's not that complicated, but you do have to be a bit of a purist in, focusing on that. And what I've come to realize is that most of the problems that we have typically come from disconnection. So disconnection creates the horse to feel unsafe. When the horse feels unsafe, the horse spooks, the horse bucks, the horse, whatever behavior someone might not like. And so that's where the connection part comes in to me. Now, here's the next piece of it. In that connection, if you're internally got a lot going on, it will be harder to maintain connection because the horse will feel your energy. your thoughts and everything and be more affected by it, and will be looking to go elsewhere because there's not enough safety. So that's sort of where this sort of obsession of coming back to that clear place, me being calm, me being soft within myself, having the horse connected together with me in that feeling, and then trying to take that into every area, riding out in the forest, riding in the arena, training, work on the ground, you know, acclimatizing at a show, whatever it might be. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about not so much sort of what you do, but maybe the feeling tone that actually is running through you when you are in that state? How do you feel?
I think in a simplistic way, and I try, and when I'm helping people, it's just feeling yourself. So like I explain it like this. We are not our brain. We are not our arms, our legs. We are not our heart. You can have a heart transplant and still be there, you know. So we're somewhere. The real us is somewhere inside, and it's an awareness, a soul, life force, whatever you want to call it. And I like to kind of view it as like awareness. So if my awareness goes up into my mind and is trying to solve problems, I will get lost in that. And most of the time, our life is presenting us with challenges that brings us up into our mind, and we get lost there. We don't realize that we're there. Like if someone said, "Oh, feel this," it's like, "Yeah, I am feeling it." It's like you don't know because you're in your mind, kind of thing. And so, for me, it's simplicity of going back to feeling your body, feeling the sensations in your body, bringing your awareness to your breath, but not thinking about your breath, but feeling your breath. And I'm sure you know all about this, but finding softness in your body, feeling where there's tightness, feeling your body. And in that place, you become clear, you become more free. And I try and give the example in between with sessions, I do it myself or help with students, is imagine that you take a moment to stand with your horse in a neutral position. I normally like to stand a bit behind the shoulder, have my hand on the horse's back or something like that. And I stand there and I just bring my awareness to breathing, feeling my body, finding softness. And I try and guide the horse to do the same, feel their body, bring their awareness back to themselves, not to the outside world, but back to themselves. And I sort of explain it a bit like that's like a pond or a glass of water, that you're returning back to stillness, to clarity. Whenever you're thinking too active, up in your nervous system, got too much going on, the water starts to ripple and it's like disturbances. And in that place, every message that you try and communicate is distorted by all the rippling, all the interference kind of thing. And so by returning back to that in between, the more times we do that, the more clear we get. And then whatever we're trying to communicate transitions through our energy and body language, with minimal disturbance. So our aids and communication can be more refined, and the horse picks up on what we're asking more easily, you know?
Yes. No, I know exactly what you mean. Do you think that in today's age where the world do like to keep us all sort of hooked into the outside and everyone's busy and, you know, they haven't got a lot of time and, you know, they've got to go and ride their horse and, you know, looking at their watch, I've got an hour or, you know, so all that really, it makes it very difficult, doesn't it, to switch and go, okay, well, you know, clear my mind and ground myself. It's not so easy, but I think what you're just talking about is what you're saying is the way. It's like becoming aware that the world is grabbing all our attention, all the things that we feel we need to do, but to actually just leave that there, and now you're with the horse. Don't sort of bring it with you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like I sort of go through cycles where, and I think this is just sort of at least how life sort of goes for us a bit, is I'm sure you've had this experience where you read a book and it comes at the right time and it's sort of life-changing and you feel you're really awakened by it. You're really feeling like, I get it now. I'm going to be in this present feeling state, clear, so on and so forth. I'm not going to let the distractions get hold of me. I'm going to stay on this regime and be able to just maintain this. And then all of a sudden you just skip a few meditations and then you skip your exercises and then you have a late night and you eat something that you shouldn't have eaten. And then the next minute your mind's looking for more distractions, more numbing, more distractions. The next minute you're scrolling on social media for hours. The next minute, you're feeling stressed about all these different things and you just feel like, what happened? Then it's sort of the wake-up call. And it brings you back to that realization. It's like, oh, wow, I've got to get back to myself. I've got to get back to the practices that bring me back to myself. I just got completely lost there. And it's sort of like the train goes off the tracks. And
Yeah. Wow. So how would you, if you were to explain when you are then seeing the horses that comes to you for training and you're looking at the horse's behavioral patterns and then you have the rider there at the same time, how much do you think the horses are influenced, again, you have kind of talked about it, but by the rider themselves? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, a huge amount. Now, I think and this is something that I'm sort of more in the earlier stages of really fully understanding, but there's a bit of a phenomena that when you do this connection work and you go into deeper states of relaxation where you help the horse to feel themselves deeper and they feel deeply relaxed and deeply safe, they start to release the stored, built up tension experiences that they've collected in their life. Now, what starts to happen is, so I'll give you a bit of an example. This is maybe an interesting one for dressage people in particular to be aware of. And we're all trying our best. It's not like, we're all trying to do a bad job or anything like that. But if you think about the more you do to a horse with your aids, with expectations, questions, demanding, it doesn't even have to be much. It can be just constant questions to the horse or so on. The horse starts to go into, so for example, when the horse's nervous system gets high up from confusion or fear, and a lot of times it's confusion to start with. It's like, I don't understand what the rider wants from me, which is a very normal thing. Anyone, if you're learning something new, there's going to be confusion. That brings the nervous system up, and when the nervous system goes up higher, it makes it even harder for the horse to learn, especially if you're continuing. Then the horse starts to get more feeling unsafe. On the surface, it might not look that much, but on an internal level, it's building up. Then the horse starts to get scared internally, and then it builds up to where the nervous system starts to go into protecting. So if the horse can try and run away, okay, use that instinct, didn't work, okay, they might try and kick out or buck or whatever. Say that doesn't work, hypothetically. And I'm not saying that the horse always goes to these options. But the most common one that you'll see is the freeze response. So the freeze response is so subtle that most people don't see it, because the horse starts to look like they're calmer almost. They seem lazy. A lot of dressage people are like, this horse is lazy. But if they let the horse go, if they got off that horse, took the bridle off and shooed it away in the paddock, the horse would gallop 100 miles an hour. But when the horse gets into that freeze response, they start to shut down and disassociate from what they're feeling. And so they start to become numb. Okay, so think of the freeze response as the body freezing like an ice block, right? Now, when you go into deep relaxation and the nervous system deeply relaxes, then the ice block starts to melt. And then the horse starts to reconnect with their body, and they're feeling more. And what I call, like, they come back to life. And in some cases, I'll give you an example of a mare that I've had for over a year now. And when she came to me, she'd been ridden pretty hard. Like, she'd had a hard time. And she wouldn't even look at you in the box, like her eyes were lifeless. She was very disassociated and shut down. And through working away on this connection, getting her to feel her own body, come back to herself, over time, the mare's come back to much higher level of health. She's so much more sensitive. Like, you don't have to, there's no problem getting her to go. There's nothing. And the horses come back to the surface. So I think this is something that is very widely misunderstood. And if you notice it, people do the same thing. Say, for example, have you ever been teaching someone, or you've seen someone having a lesson where the trainer's telling them what to do and they're just doing nothing? And you're like, doesn't matter. The more the trainer yells, the more they do nothing. It's the same response. And I think this is just something that in the future, I hope that people start to understand this more, because just so many horses are labeled lazy and no good and this and that. But in actual fact, it's not the case at all. It's just a self-protection mechanism.
Yes.
Yes.
It's very very interesting. It's almost like what you're describing is a little bit. It could be the person. It's just mirrored the other way.
100%. 100%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you then here. I had a really good question about all this with the connection, because one thing is you have your connection on the ground, but connection in the saddle, how do you see that bridge? So you're taking it from the connection you now have on the ground, and now you're going to get into the saddle. Can you sort of talk about that a bit?
Yeah. I think that's something that I'm in the process of trying to dedicate my life to a bit more. I think in the riding, if you think about, on the ground, your reference point is your body, where you are on the ground. That's where the horse references to, When you're sitting on the horse, obviously it's your seat and your legs and your body and your energy. And so the reference point is a little bit different, and the communication there's a bit more felt communication than on the ground. Like on the ground, a lot of the work, and what I mean by felt is like physical contact. So like when you're working with the horse at liberty in connection, it's more they're feeling your energy and your body language. And in the saddle, they're feeling your body, more. The physical touch is a bigger component. But I think in the same way, the questions that you ask ideally need to lead to somewhere helpful. So like if you ask a question to get the horse to listen to you, this is not a good enough. Like if I said to you, Pernille, you have to do this thing for me because I say, that's a stupid reason to do it. But if I said to you, Pernille, if you listen to me, this is going to help you a huge amount, and I really want to help you, all of a sudden you might be more open. And if you try it and it helps you a lot, you're like, oh, next time Will wants, to ask something of me. And I think the key distinction is trying to, and look, I'm not there yet. I've got a lot of learning to do with this, but I think the key distinction is connection should be trying to be able to achieve the ability to work together. So if I describe it in terms of like, if you ask the horse to go forward with your seat in a simple manner, it's like inviting the horse to go forward. If the horse takes responsibility for that and goes forward, there needs to be a feedback that instantly rewards that in a way that feels good. So like, for example, I like to use the term like flow. So for example, when we're flowing together, so let's just say the horse is walking and my body and seat is flowing together in the walk, with no resistance, no friction. We're just going together in flow. Now, if I add, softness, good energy, and positive energy, so like if I feel a good feeling towards the horse or use my voice with that good feeling, then we can get into a state where the flow is really pleasant. Now, when you're in the flow, there's nowhere you need to be, meaning there's no thought like, I don't want to be here. If you're feeling that, you're not in the flow. So the horse is then, not in the flow. So then let's just say now we want to go to trot. The flow now is not in the walk. It has to be found in the trot. So we suggest the signal to go to trot, and let's just say the horse doesn't want to go to trot, for argument's sake.
Yeah.
Then what we have a problem that the horse's mind is not thinking about trot. So if I exaggerate the idea and go forward and go into trot, but go a little more forward until that horse is thinking, I'm really trotting, and then I immediately reward the horse and let them feel good, and then bring them back either to the flow in the trot or back to walk and invite them again to go into trot. And when they go into trot together with me, then I reward them back into that flow again. And so that we're in this connected flow that's letting them know we're good here. Now, the other thing that I'm trying to add in, I'm still a long way off perfecting these things, but is that when we're going together, so say, for example, we're in trot, ideally, we want to be able to feel our body. So like, I want to be able to feel that I'm balanced, I'm soft, I'm connected with myself comfortably. So imagine you're riding the best rising trot, simple thing you've ever ridden. You're comfortable, you're really with yourself. And in that process, you want to be transmitting that to the horse so that they can feel themselves. So if you're holding them together or controlling their speed or fiddling with them unconsciously or pressing them with the legs, they can't feel themselves. So then, you know what I mean? So the more, so that's kind of what, because coming back to that point I was saying about like how the deep relaxation creates the horse to come to life. What I feel is when you're in flow in the movement, you know what it's like. And when you're say warming up and the horse is totally soft and relaxed over the back, feeling great, balanced, comfortable, you know that on that level that the horse feels their body even more. So when you go to do a transition, to canter, for example, or whatever, everything, the horse can do it easily. But if there's a bit of tension, if there's a bit of concern, or the horse is up in their nervous system holding, or you are, you know that you can easily interfere with that. And what I've noticed with a lot of the top riders that I've met, they have a better ability to not think and just blindly trust what they're doing sometimes and just think that they're right and just totally be clear. No, they don't even think about it. Like if you ask them, oh, so what were you thinking about when you were trying? Nothing. I didn't think about anything. I just did it.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
What you just said there,
go.
I think is a really important thing is the trust. Is that, you trust the horse, but in fact, it's more at the beginning important that the rider trusts themselves, because if you don't trust yourself, then you're not clear. You're not really sure what you're doing. And then you are looking to the horse, and the horse is confused because its rider doesn't trust itself.
Yes.
So...
Yes. And I think with the trust part, like I think for some people who might be struggling with that is like, what the hell does that even mean? I've never trusted myself in my life. I think of it as like, to start with, let's just say if we have a default feeling of not being good enough, not trusting ourselves, doubting ourselves, we have to return to neutral before we can build trust in ourselves. So returning back to neutral is just breathing, being calm, clear, and then start to internally focus on the trust. And I've learned that through my own experience, but also helping people who maybe their self-worth is so broken that the thought of saying trust yourself is like triggering to them. It's like saying, it's like they can't even find safety yet, let alone trusting myself is like saying, climb this, tower when I've never climbed a ladder kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that's just something that I've learned more in recent times. Yeah.
Wow. I think everything that you're explaining here, horses really help riders to really also understand themselves better if we really pay attention to the horse. They kind of mirror
100%.
us quite a lot, don't they?
Yes, yeah. It's a nice way of looking at it. It's like reflect on what the horse is feeling and then reflect back on yourself as to, am I unintentionally creating it? And I think that's one of the hardest things to do. There's a meditation that I do occasionally, and it's this guy, and he talks about how like awareness is like a torch. It shines on all sorts of things, but it doesn't shine on itself. And so I think that's why we so easily get lost, is because our awareness goes to the horse, to the people, to the trainer, to the outside world, and not back to ourself enough.
Yes.
But like you say, the outside world is reflecting to give us that information, like, bring the awareness back to yourself kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a lifelong, what do you call it, journey of uncovering it all, isn't it? For oneself.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
When you are on the ground with the horses, your positioning on the ground must be of great importance, like where you're actually placing yourself. You know how you were telling me about the boundaries, and that are you very particular in how you place yourself in proximate to the horse? Yes,
Yeah, and how the horse relates to me. So for me, boundaries are not about respect. They're about understanding and awareness, so that the horse understands there is a line. And I want the horse to be able to come quite close to me, but also to be aware that, like, if something was to spook them or worry them, that they know not to jump clean on top of me and, put me in harm's way. And that they feel with. So when I talk about these sweet spots, they're clearly defined places, positions that I want the horse to find freedom, so that like in that position, my promise to them is that I always make that feel great and I don't disturb them with anything in that position. So that's where they can be completely free. If they leave that mentally, because let's remember that connection is mental. If they leave that mentally by physically and mentally going too far one way or the other, then I exaggerate the opposite. So let's just say the horse is going too far ahead of me. I start to exaggerate being more behind me until the mind comes back into balance, you know? So like if you think about like a half pass, it could be a good example.
Yeah.
Say, for example, you're teaching a half pass or you're going into half pass and the horse is not thinking about the half pass enough themselves. So you're having to do too much. Then let's just say you're in walk and you go really sideways in the half pass until the horse really picks themselves up and bends, opens their back and kind of really goes, okay, I'm really thinking half pass right here. And in that moment, you reward back to flow. Then the next, if you repeat that enough, as soon as that horse, you start to position your seat and your aids, the horse is like, oh yeah, half pass. And so then when the horse is doing the half pass from themselves, you don't have to keep them together, you know, with your aids and support them kind of thing in that way. And that's kind of what I'm trying to look for in the high level work. And I haven't really had this, maybe the time or the situation to be able to do that, but that's my next chapter, to really focus in on that, because I'm not as interested in competing myself as I am in sort of understanding the mastery of what's involved in working together with the horse at the highest level, because I feel like that's something that can give you fulfillment, or at least for me, fulfillment on the journey much more than, you know, just a outcome-based result kind of thing, you know? Yeah.
Well, I think it comes back to what we started with. It's all about the connection, because in connection, you are capturing that feeling.
Yeah. And that's when you, with your first question, about like what gets me excited or keeps me going is a bit that, and then trying to keep that while doing more difficult things. Then it sort of, that's a real challenge, you know. Kind of thing.
That's for sure. It's like Well, Will, if you could whisper a message into all equestrians, what will you tell them to take away? They can take away with them.
I think I would say you ride as you are. Your relationship with your horses is a reflection of how you are being. And the good news is that you can change how you're being by shifting your awareness back to yourself and becoming clear. And I think that's where all the magic is. And so I think that alone, all the things that people are really looking for are starting from within and practice from the right place. So like if you have a great technique, but if it's practiced from the wrong internal place, you know, it's going to be polluted or affected by what's going on inside. Whereas if you're clear and in your feeling, you're connected to that part of you that, feels everything and can be in sync with everything, you know?
Yeah. Thank you for that. I'll take that with me. Well, it's been such a good conversation. You have got this retreat coming up. I saw it.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because that does actually look pretty amazing.
Yes. Well, these horse-human connection retreats that we've started are basically born out of the idea that basically what I would want to do. So like I sort of thought, you know, all the ingredients that like are going to help someone really come back into their lives really clear and connected with what's important to them, and understanding like where there might be blocked and what's where the magic lies, and understanding more about this connection with horses and everything, and obviously all the wellness and nature and good food and good people and that sort of thing makes it extra special.
Yes.
But that's kind of the thing that I feel like I think we need more of that, not to escape, but to support what we're actually on a maybe deeper level actually already wanting to do, trying to do, but
Yes.
the world's got its teeth into us and we're not able to really fully, live that maybe, you know?
Yes. Yeah. So if people listening in would like to, get in contact with you, where can they find you? Like, where have you got all your
Well,
details?
we've got different, we've got the Horse-Human Connection Retreat website. We've got the Will Rogers Approach website,
Yes.
or if you go on my Instagram or Facebook, Will Rogers Horses, then they can find more and reach out.
Well, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. That was
You're welcome.
learn a lot. Thank you. Let's say
You're welcome.
goodbye to everyone. Till next time.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. I hope you really enjoyed it and found lots of wisdom and inspiration to take with you. If you enjoyed this conversation, please remember to like and subscribe below. That will help these conversations reach other equestrians like you. Thank you. Until next time, ride the way you want to live.